Good morning, everyone, on this lovely, rainy August 20th. Give me 1 second. I forgot to put my light on there. Welcome to the Volpe Creates show. I am Chris, and today we are... Don't come on. Come here. Come here. Baby's down here. She wants to play. I'm sorry. Give me a second. Come on, babes. Well, whatever. We're going to talk about some video game stuff as we normally do. I'm excited to bring up an article from that I saw on gamesindustry.biz about starting a studio, because I think it's it's something that a lot of people are thinking about, particularly with all the layoffs going on now. There you go. Come here. All right. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. All right, I think she just wanted some breakfast. So, anyway, about starting a studio, because a lot of people are focusing on, or at least thinking about that, because of all the layoffs and where people are and all that. So, let me pull up this article here. So this is we chose the worst time in history, Harvey Smith said on starting his own studio after Arkane. Microsoft's closure of Arkane in Austin in May 2024 left 96 developers out of work, among them studio head Harvey Smith, whose story career spans Deus Ex, Dishonored, and Prey. Now, after a 2-year quiet period, Smith is ready to reveal his next venture, Black Pony Immersive, a new studio co-founded with former Arkane colleague Ben Horn. Ben and I, quote, Ben and I chose the worst time in history to start a game studio, he tells gamesindustry.buzz, because you know what else, because you know what else are you going to do? Okay, that was a weird... Sorry, that was on me. So while Smith has previously held director roles at Arkane and Midway, this is the first time he has set up his own company, something he says has been a goal. It just took a little while to get there. If there's any silver lining to be taken from Arkane Austin's closure, Smith says, quote, there's so many lessons we've learned. We've endured these enormous hardships together. So what does, quote, doing it better look like? Part of the answer, Smith says, is minimizing top-down interference. We don't have to seek much approval from anyone else, and that makes us very nimble, unquote. So, a couple of things here. First off, I think a lot of folks are trying to find their way in this world where there's layoffs. The publishing world is very challenging to get, funding for games, all that kind of stuff. But as someone who has started a studio and has helped a lot of studios, there's a few things that I just sort of want to call out there. The first is, he is correct. This is probably the worst time in gaming history to start a studio, because there is no money and it's just very competitive and it's very challenging, and the big boys are sucking up all the air and all the dollars. That is true. And then, this line here, well, we're going to start a studio because, what else are you going to do? Question mark. I think a lot of people feel that. A lot of people feel like they don't have any option but besides to start their own studio and just kind of hope against hope that it's going to work. And I get that. It's when you can't find any job opportunities and, a lot of these things just aren't kind of working for you. What do you do, right? And that is a very challenging place to be. And I don't know if he's got, money saved up or whatever. It doesn't sound like he's got a publisher. Let me just double check. I don't think he's got a publisher on here. Nope. Yeah, I don't see any. But here, this line, there are so many lessons we've learned. We've endured these enormous hardships together. So it sounds like that they've been kind of kicking at this for about 2 years. Yeah. I'm sure they've learned a lot of lessons. I don't doubt that at all. This quote here, we don't have to seek much approval from anyone, and that makes us very nimble. That is a very common thought in tech, in businesses. They're like, we're smart, we're nimble, we're going to be able to outwork them, out creativity them. And in some cases, that is true. I think one of the big issues, certainly with Microsoft, is just the insane layers of bureaucracy that people have to go through when they're making any kind of decision. Absolutely true. The problem is that in and of itself is not enough to build a successful company. And I've seen this time and time and time again, that people who have moved from the AAA sphere into the indie sphere, they are locked in a mentality of how game development works based on that. And they have trouble becoming nimble. They have trouble, when there's no money coming in, they have trouble navigating. Well, how are they going to run their business when they're paying themselves, $1,000 a month or whatever? And a lot of them, the lessons they have to learn start to become pretty harsh, because they are used to being in an environment where things like their operations are taken care of, their office supplies, they're legal, they have got access to lawyers that can help them with all their questions, they have an HR department, they have full benefits, like all of these things that you get by being part of a larger studio, you don't get by being an indie studio. And if you want to have them, you have to create them. And so you're now going to have to figure out how to get insurance for all your people. You're going to have to make sure that you have liability insurance and E&O insurance. You're going to need to make sure that your office is equipped with, the appropriate computer equipment and everything. And that's a big thing too. Is a lot of devs. Now, this won't apply to everyone, obviously, but I think a lot of people that move from AAA, they start off by like, okay, we're going to get an office, we're going to buy really good equipment, we're going to buy really nice furniture, so that they can like kind of replicate what they had, and they spend a lot of money on all of these sort of accoutrements for their office, and they end up really paying for it down the road, because now they've incurred debt. Potentially, they've spent money on things that they really didn't need to spend money on really early. Now, a lot of these devs, and I don't know about this one for sure. I guess Black Pony here is going to be the studio that they're opening up, has 26 employees already. Opened its door last August with a headcount of 26. Has been an opportunity to reunite with some members of the old team, including those who'd since found jobs elsewhere. That's great. However, how are you going to keep those people, funded? And it's really easy to spend money like crazy in the early days when you're thinking about your project. And so I think everybody who is thinking about going out there, and we'll have talks about this at GDEX, and I'm happy to have conversations, at the sandbox.space/Discord on these things. I talk about these things all the time. But when you're starting a new studio, you have to be just like lean as all heck. If you can work remotely, cool. If you want to have an office, find a cheap office and buy, furniture used, or get I don't want to say get cheap stuff, but get stuff that's going to work and it's going to be sturdy, but get less expensive stuff from, a store. Don't go to like an office store and, spend $25,000 outfitting your office on stuff. Like there's lots of different ways that you can navigate that, but try to be as cheap as you can and try to not accrue debt. And one of the most expensive things you can do is hire on people. So they said it opened its door in last August. Now it's a headcount of 26. So I assume last August was last year in 2025. Like, that's a lot of people. I don't know where their game is at the moment, but these are red flags that I see very regularly, and you don't notice them when you're in it until you're like a couple years down the road. And then you realize like, oh man, I have spent a lot of money on stuff, and I wish I had that money to get us to the next milestone so I could go get some investment or a publisher, or, I wish I hadn't spent all this money, because now we have a burn rate that's way higher. Burn rate's how much money you spend per month. But now we have a burn rate that's way higher than it should be, because we have all these debt obligations or these loan obligations, or, we bought furniture on credit or something, right? And So now every month that rolls in, whether you produce something or not, whether you have employees or not, you're still spending $10, $20, $25,000, whatever it is, could be even more. At 26 people, I mean, you think about a desk for each person. It's very, very common for an office setting to spend, $2,000, $2,500 per person just on office furniture. Then you add in a computer, that could be another $3,000 to $4,000. So you're looking at somewhere between, we'll say, $6,000 to $10,000 per person between all the equipment, the software, the computers, furniture, all that stuff. Hey, pumps. And so you end up in these positions where now you've got this massive debt load that keeps coming in at you every month. And if you're not making money, which you are not when you're in the early stages of developing your game, your project, you're not making any money. And if you can't get the funding, the publishing or whatever, and in today's world, like there's a lot of publishers that are going to be real strict on what they're going to give you. And if you end up coming back asking for more, they'll just kill the project. And having a AAA degree pedigree, having experiences working on, cool games like Deus Ex and stuff, like the reality is it just doesn't matter because it's a publisher's market right now. It's an investor's market. And there's somebody else with game experience or a cool idea around the corner. And the reality is a lot of publishers are seeing that there is a lot of money to be made in these small, weird games that don't cost that much to make. So, I mentioned Mecha Chameleon in a previous video. That game cost almost nothing to make. And last time I saw it, it made like $80 million or something. So, and that was all like almost totally profit. Like you're talking about like 98% profit, 99% profit. And so if you're coming at as a studio with 26 people, what are you going to be asking for a game? Claire Obscura, I mentioned, had a $10 million budget for about 30, 35 people plus extras that they brought in to help them out. Can you make a game with 26 people at $10 million in the United States while paying them the rates that they're used to getting in AAA and providing them all their benefits? I don't know, man. It's going to be tight. So, I'm not using this as an opportunity to boo-hoo them or to rip on them. I hope that they're successful. I think Arkane was a cool studio, and I want to see them. I want to see more developers making more cool things. That's not what I'm getting at. Maybe this is almost just like a warning to Black Pony, as well as anybody else who is either started a studio or thinking about starting a studio, that it's really easy in the beginning to sort of get out over your skis, and then you find yourself in a position where you're just not able to hit your milestones, and you see your timeline beginning to break apart, because you're just not going to be able to hit the timeline that you thought because you're spending too much money, or oftentimes some tech thing doesn't work, or an idea that you thought, maybe a mechanic or a narrative thing, doesn't work, or maybe you just came up with a better idea and you want to kind of switch gears a little bit. And now you're going to be adding 6 to 12 months to your dev time. How much is that going to be at 26 people? You can just assume, if you just, we'll just look at a basic calculator here. Even if you do 26. What, babes? Oh, my Lord. Come here. All right. Baby, go and say hi. There she is. She ate her breakfast. So you did 26 people. Let's say it's $80,000 a year, that is low for what many people in AAA are particularly at leadership and stuff. But we'll just use $80,000. So that's $2,080,000, right? But then you have to add your benefits and stuff. So usually you can use a 25, 30%. We'll use a 30% multiplier on that to account for benefits and things like that. So now you're at $2.74 million per year just for salaries and benefits, right? Just salaries and benefits. No office, no equipment, no server costs, no testing, no marketing. So, you see what I'm saying? It's pretty easy to get up to $3.5, $4 million, $5 million per year. If you can get your game out in 2 years, you're at a $10 million budget. If you can't get your game out in 2 years. So anyway, I'm sure that they know what's going on better than I do about their internals. So I'm not saying, don't do it. It just red flags, some things I mentioned, I noticed as I was reading this article this morning. I thought I would bring it up. So again, if anybody has any thoughts, questions, comments, anything that they want to talk about, feel free to add them in the chat as we do these shows. Otherwise, you can catch me every day at 9:30 on Twitch, twitch.tv/volpecreates. And then I also post these onto my YouTube channel every day. So you can always check those out. Remember to subscribe and like and share. I'm trying to get to, what was my goal? Hold on a second. I had it in my brain and now I've forgotten it. I'm trying to get to, it's just 100 people, just 100 subscribers. I would like to get to 100 subscribers by the end of fall. So yeah. All right. That is all that I've got. Appreciate it. I will see you in the next video, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care, y'all.